I bet it'd probably go almost same, don't you think so, probably, Covers County.
We got something
We could go ahead and do what we got, probably getting while we're in here, and then,
Well, and then when Jason gets here, I guess,
then we'll find out. He said he's coming up.
he can tell us what to do.
That's true. That's your window proposal from Salem.
We're going into open session.
Here's that EMS proclamation that Jason had brought in last week. I just retyped it, put it in Stafford County. We need a motion.
It's pretty reasonable, I think. Where we're gonna get another bid.
That's all we got, isn't it?
It's the only one that was brought to me. I think
I
Bill
thought
Norris wasn't interested.
He wasn't.
Isn't that what she said last week? I think he's so busy with other things, he doesn't want to happen.
It's gonna take some place to put it too. You ready for a motion on this?
Yeah, I'd make a motion.
I'll make a motion and we approve this bid from Mike Sailor Repair, to glaze all the windows and furnish all the materials, labor and everything that lived for a total of $1,975.52.
I'll second it.
And move the second one. This bid, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
And we need to see.
So, did have Claudia or JD sign it too down there?
You want to sign it?
Okay, and then we have this proclamation, EMS proclamation Jason brought in last week. Need a motion on this.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We designate the week of May 20th through May 26th as the EMS Emergency Services Week.
I'll second it.
Move the second. Sign the proclamation. EMS, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
You said Jason was coming out.
Jason just called. He had a situation where the Red Cross come up that he had to take care of, and he is on his way in.
Okay.
The minutes from last week. That's it.
You have myself, don't you? Yeah, we'll recess.
I see you downstairs. What that?
Yeah, I got it.
I think I said too.
The next 48 hours for a storm at the time that we now know was tracking right through the middle of Greensburg. We were given lots of advance warning from the Weather Service in Dodge City, and I believe that it saved countless lives inside our county. Friday, we came out with 6 total injuries that required medical treatment. There were numerous other minor injuries that did not require trained medical care. One of these injuries was critical. 2 we classified as moderate, and 3 were minor. Saturday, we only had numerous minor injuries reported. To my knowledge, none of those people were even admitted to the hospital. I should note that the one critical injury on Friday happened during the first tornado, and that was Maxville Police Officer Tim Buckman, who was serving as a storm spotter. The location he was covering was 1 mile east of Dillon Road on Highway 50. That was his last known location. After the tornado went through, dispatch realized that they could not make contact with him, and they began to send people that way as best as we could, given the damage, to try and locate him. He was found approximately 45 minutes later by a passing motorist, still inside his patrol car, 70 yards south of Highway 50, in a field. Fire units from Stafford and St. John worked to extricate him with the jaws of life from his vehicle. Given the weather, we could not land a helicopter at the scene, so he was transported by EMS to the Pratt Airport, at which point he was flown to St. Francis in Wichita. Talking to his family last night at 11 o'clock, he is still in extremely critical condition, and they would like our prayers for him and his family. Yesterday I worked with the National Weather Service from Dodge City and also from the Severe Storm Center in Norman, Oklahoma, to track the damage path through Stafford County. Through a mapping system that we put in place after the first storm, we were able to distinguish between Friday night's damage and Saturday's damage. Friday night, we searched every residence that was in a 3-mile area of any damage track from the south end of the county to the north end of the county, using about 100 to 120 volunteers. By doing that and tracking where we had that damage, when we had the second round of storms on Saturday, we were able to to separate it out, basically. Friday's path was 34 miles long and almost continuous without it picking up and sitting back down. It started 9 miles south of Maxville at the county line, just north of Hopewell. It ended at Stafford Ellenwood Road on the Barton County line for 34 miles of storm track. It was rated a low, it was rated an EF3 tornado by the National Weather Service. They said it possibly could have been a low-end F4. To put that in perspective, F0 is the weakest, and the Greensburg tornado was an F5, which is the highest. So we were more toward the end of severe damage. And I think the only thing that kept it to a minimum is the location that it traveled through the county. Estimated wind speed for a tornado in that category is 140 to 170 miles an hour sustained. It's pretty low contrast and it's kind of hard to see, but that's the only picture that I currently have of the storm Friday night, and that would be as it tracked across Highway 50 east of Maxville. Can y'all? I can't tell from over here if the contrast is good enough. But we were dealing with a very large and destructive tornado at that point. Given the damage to the main power line that runs east-west south Highway 50, and talking to the foreman that's in charge of repairing that, the damage that he sees there is consistent with damage to those type of structures from a large tornado, not straight-line winds. And given the twisting of the debris there and counting the power poles and what their span is, we're able to come up with an estimate of just over a mile wide when it crossed Highway 50. Saturday, there was an intermittent path of damage that covered parts of 22 miles. The first tornado was spotted early on, a few hours before everything else, and that actually was over on the east side of the county. It was spotted 6 miles south of Stafford. It was called in as a rotating wall cloud, and the Stafford police chief was able to get out there and see numerous funnel clouds, one of which was reported to have touched down by a storm spotter that was working with the Weather Service in Dodge City. No damage was reported at that time. We had about a half-an-hour break, and I went north to the Radium Seward area for a storm that was going through Edwards County, and we watched one after another. We watched 3 different wall clouds put funnels down in that area. Only 2 of those could we confirm touched the ground, and only minor damage was reported there to livestock, irrigation equipment, and outbuildings. These were all rated F0 to F1 with a wind estimate of 70 to 100 miles an hour. Also Saturday, 30 minutes later, a tornado was reported to be in Kiowa County following the same track as it had the night before, straight toward Maxville. We had spotters in a safe position again, of course, for this. From my vantage point, west of Maxville, between Maxville and Belpre, we had torrential rains, large hail, and anybody in Maxville, there's no way that I believe they could have seen it coming. So once again, we need to thank the Weather Service for their excellent forecasting and early warning. The last report on that storm from Dodge City was that it was 2 miles south of Maxville and headed straight north. Thankfully, it did make a right turn, and we had several homes southeast of Maxville that unfortunately were damaged, but Maxville itself did avoid a direct strike from the tornado. That storm possibly could have lifted. It either lifted or just made a hard right toward Dillon. And once they got over to Dillon, several fire and law enforcement spotters confirmed first a large wedge tornado east of Dillon, and then confirmed a second tornado near that one, half a mile east, with multiple vortices spinning around each other. The first tornado lifted and they both passed off to the north. Last damage was seen in the area of Golden Belt feeders. 5 minutes later, there were several of us near First Street, approximately a mile to a mile and a half west of St. John, that observed 2 wedge tornadoes on the ground simultaneously, about half a mile apart, which in talking to the Weather Service, seeing 2 tornadoes that large, that close to each other is just an extremely rare phenomenon. We're very fortunate again that the damage was not more extensive. We also encountered 100-mile-an-hour straight line winds as measured by the Weather Service and observed by several of us just west of town that caused damage to trees and irrigation pivots being tumbled over. That tornado is south of Dillon, and that was the first tornado. And that picture was provided by a storm chaser who was on Highway 50, and gave me a copy of that picture. This is another low contrast picture, but that's the second tornado, the large wedge tornado. And with that picture blown up, it's hard to see in there. But the reason it's hard to see is that it was so rain wrapped, and there's just not very good contrast. It was difficult to spot. To an untrained person, maybe looking outside of their house at that, it could easily just look like rain. And that's the danger of a storm like that. Shortly thereafter, we had other spotters near 281 and K19 that had a visual on one of these tornadoes for several minutes. They tracked it out of the county near 281. The last damage that it was known to have done would have been at the county line 1 mile west of 281, where it did damage 2 farmhouses. Again, that's another low contrast picture as one of those tornadoes crossed Highway 50. And the thing that I thought was interesting about that is if you look at that picture, as best I can tell, the tree that's on the south side of the highway is the same tree that was in a picture of Friday night's tornado.
Oh, really?
And I know that it's 2 different nights because the pictures came from 2 different people. And I thought that was kind of interesting. This is a picture from a guy, his name's on there, Wesley Luganville, and he's the storm chaser that gave me this picture. This is from Highway 50, 2 miles east of Dillon Road, 1 mile north, as he watched the 2 side-by-side tornadoes track to the northeast. Damage estimates: 37 homesteads received confirmed damage on Friday, 15 received damage on Saturday. Mainly, the state and FEMA is focused on houses, but in a community like ours, it's important to note that we had massive damage to livestock, irrigation equipment, farm equipment. We had several oil tank batteries in the county that were ruptured, causing a groundwater contamination problem. Hazardous materials issues is one of those did then get hit by lightning and burned. There were 40 center pivots or more that we counted overturned and destroyed. A 115 volt, 1,000 volt transmission line south of Highway 50 has 35 of the support structures already damaged. And to give you an idea, from talking to the foreman from the repair company, those structures are 600 to 800 feet apart, and we're looking at 35 of them. They're out in muddy fields that they can't get to. And so that is a lot of why Maxville is still without power at this time. And the best estimates at this point are that we could prepare for up to a week of not having power in Maxville before it's repaired. Like I said, the tornado appeared to be 1 mile wide at this point. There were over 50 volunteers from all the fire and EMS stations in the county. Worked till 5 o'clock Saturday morning. We went home and took a nap for about an hour, and I had 50 plus people up again in an hour to go and recheck everything in the daylight, do what we call a secondary search. Operations Saturday stopped near noon, partly in anticipation of more weather and the fact that we had to give people some rest. At 4 o'clock, everybody was back out in anticipation of the storms, starting with, like I said, the first one south of Stafford. And operations stayed in effect from 4 p.m. on Saturday until 5 p.m. on Sunday. Agencies that assisted us in mutual aid, you see on there, EMS, Rice County, Reno County, Free Prairie, Peston, and Pratt. Fire companies, we had fire companies from Reno County, Newton. The Region 3 merge team is an EMS management team that I'm a part of. Pratt County EMA assisted us. We had several storm chasers that sometimes get a bad rap for being in the way, driving too fast, being dangerous. I didn't see any of that. I had several that stopped and let us use their real-time radar to get an idea in the field of what we were looking at. As we had several more rounds coming through, and we never really could quite turn our back on it. The Highway Patrol and the Kansas Department of Emergency Management also have offered lots of assistance. This is just a couple more pictures that were relayed to me. Here's one from south of Maxville. Once again, credit on that is to Wesley, the Bougainville, that is a storm chaser and was willing to provide us with these photos. Here's another one. This is a young man from Pittsburgh, Kansas that took this picture and was willing to share it with us. This storm is north of the Seward Radiant area, looking off to the north. That's a low contrast picture that is off north of Seward once again, and the reason I put that in there is that is the storm that caused the tornado emergency to be issued for Great Bend in the north end of our county. In the middle of all this, we followed that one for about 5 minutes with it having contact on the ground and causing damage in the area of the county line 3 miles west of 281, and it then lifted and dissipated. It could have been worse. That's an aerial picture, as I'm sure the members of the media have already seen. That's what Greensburg looks like. And I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to see anything from that, but that's what they're looking at. And so as much damage as we had and the injuries that we had, I think it's still important to stress that between the actions of our fire and EMS personnel and the early warning from Dodge City, we averted a potentially disastrous situation as well. To put it in perspective, that's a picture of the Greensburg tornado. So while the tornadoes I showed you that we had come through here were bad, that obviously could have been worse. And we're counting our blessings for that.
Very good.
You guys have any questions?
Very good, Jason.
Nothing but praise for your, thank you from all departments that you.
Yes. I've done nothing but good.
I will pass that on to all my people. No questions? Maybe on anything specific? Okay.
Got anything else for this one that we need to
I
take
guess
care of?
we'll just wait for Jason and then we'll go.
We'll recess